Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of Basis Picks. Now, I was considering quite a few of these over the last day or two. I had to wait for several of the weigh-ins. Had the Matchroom weigh-ins early yesterday, and the PBC ones obviously came on later on in the evening. So, which card do I start with? I guess it makes sense to start with the Matchroom card. Actually, no, you know what? Before I do that, the Boxer series. Now, I haven't actually checked all of the contestants in it, but I'm just going to assume that Ryland Charlton is the favourite to get through the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the finals. So I'm just going to pick him just based off of name recognition and kind of who I've seen do the most work. Okay, so we start with Matchroom. There's 3 particular fights I am interested in. They are the last 3 fights on the card. First of all being Alicia Baumgardner versus Edith Soledad Medici. I am going for a Baumgardner stoppage in about round 7 or 8. Purely 2 reasons. Number one, Edith, very tough, but she comes forward, she's there to be hit. Doesn't really move a lot. It's not evasive, it's not going to be able to slip the power shots, and she will open up, which will give Baumgardner enough time to be able to throw, sometimes even in between the shots. Very similar to what happened with Terry Harper, where she unloaded the jab and then Baumgardner reset, and then as soon as the second punch came out, that's when she countered her, and we all saw what happened there. So yeah, I'm going to go for the stoppage. It might not even necessarily be a knockout, but it could be a case of the corner just pulling Edith out, especially as she can't even win the belt. That's a big thing for me in this. The fact that she doesn't have a chance to win the title because she came in 3 pounds overweight on the scales. It tells me that realistically, there's no point having her take punishment after punishment with no chance of getting to the end and winning the fight with nothing to show for it at the end of it. So yeah, I'm going by Baumgardner, some kind of stoppage between sort of rounds 7 to 8. Next, moving on, we've got Chris Billam-Smith versus Tommy McCarthy 2. Now, me personally, I kind of feel like Tommy McCarthy actually won that first fight, but both guys gassed extremely poorly throughout that fight. Chris Billam-Smith is susceptible to getting hurt early in fights. Happened with Richard Riakporhe, happened with McCarthy. Those aren't the only times it's happened. So when I look at the fight itself, I feel as if Chris Billam-Smith's got the better corner. He works with the better trainer, but McCarthy just might be a bit more grizzled, for lack of a better word. I feel like he just got a bit more sort of grit and determination, and if he sorted out his gas tank, and to be fair, he looked a lot better on the scales yesterday than he did the first time round. I think he wants those belts back. If we look at the first fight, he didn't have to take that fight against Chris Billam-Smith, but he did. He never thought he'd get this rematch, and to be honest, Shane and the team and management, they didn't really want to give it to him either. But ultimately, it was the most high-profile fight they was going to make for any decent money, so it makes sense. But the fact he didn't really want it again shows me that one guy obviously wanted this fight a lot more than the other. So this isn't even a case of a skills pay the bills type situation. So I do go with Tommy McCarthy to regain his Commonwealth and European titles. It's not a very strong prediction. I just feel like he's got more invested in this fight than Chris Billam-Smith, because he's looking more at things in the future, whereas like Thomas, if he doesn't win this, then pretty much his prospects are done. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Tommy McCarthy, but it's not one of my strongest predictions if I'm real. And I think it goes points again. I don't think anyone gets stopped unless he can gain some extra gas from somewhere and actually, get out the gas tank this time, like, and keep going and keep pushing forward, hurt the guy, and then carry on going through the gears to try and get him out of there. But yeah, I'm gonna go with McCarthy on that one. Now, Conor Benn versus Chris Van Heerden. I mean, look, everyone has complained about this fight. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole Eddie Hearn, in his very last fight, he fought Boots Ennis. Like, that means nothing. And that was like over 2 years ago. So, this isn't even about the sell for me. But when I look at this fight, I mean, Chris Van Heerden, I've always kind of rated him as a trier. Like, he's not a guy that's just coming for the paycheck. He never has been that kind of guy. Look at the record. His record is not that bad. Like, he's only on the record, I believe he's only got 2 losses. And to him, he only has 1, which was the Errol Spence fight. I remember, I think he said the other one it was like robbed on the cards. I didn't actually see that fight to be able to comment, but he's adamant that, like, he basically went and outboxed the guy and whatever. So he's not coming to just lay down. Plus, he's the taller, he's the rangier guy, he's a southpaw, and he's just naturally bigger in frame than Conor. So while I don't say he wins this fight per se, you take that into account. You take into account the fact that he's a consummate professional. He's, always in the gym. You can see from his body, he's not someone that's up and down yo-yoing. He didn't look super dry on the scales, if I'm being honest. Like, when I looked at him in the weigh-in, he didn't look gaunt and dry and, skin ready to tear off. Like, he looked in decent condition. I heard rumors that he's been in a fat suit for the last couple days trying to make weight, which seems a little weird. But I mean, if that's how he chose to do it, what can I say? Anyway, look, get into this fight. I mean, Conor's got activity and he's got momentum, so those are the main things. He's coming off of a great win against Chris Algieri, and that, obviously, confidence is one of the biggest things you need in something like boxing. I like the fight. I think it's something that he has to deal with. Ultimately, I do think Conor Benn wins the fight. However, I think this fight goes very late, and I'm leaning towards points, if I'm honest. I definitely don't think this fight ends before 9 rounds. That's sort of, to me, is a very big indicator. I don't think Van Heerden is gonna allow Conor to put it on him like that hard in the first 6 rounds of the fight. So yeah, between rounds 9 and 12 is the earliest I see this fight kind of being finished, but I do see it getting points. I see Conor winning a competitive fight, not necessarily it won't be one-sided. I think it will be competitive, but he will sort of comprehensively win on the cards, kind of thing. Van Heerden, and obviously he's fighting. He said he's fighting for the memory of his father. We all know that when you're fighting for the memory of a loved one, that can kind of spur you on an extra round or two. So he's definitely not going to be willing to just give up and take a beating and quit on his stall or anything like that, barring a major injury or something. But that's an intangible I can't predict. So yeah, that's my prediction. I'm predicting that the fight goes to points. A very competitive, fun fight, but Conor Benn sort of gets a very clear decision in that one. Okay, so moving over to the top rank card, PBC card, which is Errol Spence Jr. versus Dennis Ugas. Right, so there's only 4 fights on this card that I know off the top of my head because I haven't checked the whole thing, but I did purchase it on Fight TV, so I will be watching it live on the big screen. Starting with Radzav Butaev and Imantios Stanionis. Basically, I'm going for Butaev. He's kind of the taller fighter, got the more range, slightly older, so a bit more experienced, more fights, more knockouts, a bit busy over the two. Sort of he fights more, crowds his opponents a bit more, makes them have to constantly work, which is something a lot of fighters hate to have to do. And yeah, overall, I just think that Butaev's got a bit more. He's got a bit more in the tank than Stanionis will have, and I'm predicting the win. In terms of method, I've got no idea, so I'm not going to predict one. Next is Cody Crawley against Josecito Lopez. Now Lopez always puts in a shift. Very dogged, very dominant, and I haven't seen a huge amount of Cody Crawley, if I'm gonna be totally honest, so I'm not gonna lie and act as if I have, but from the very limited stuff I have seen, I feel like he's got enough to win this fight. But I think this one goes points, because Lopez, like I said, he's tough, he's gritty, he's not gonna lay down for anyone. He's basically he's the yardstick for if you've got any real ability in this in the division. So I'm going for Crawley to win decision. Next we got Isaac Cruz against Yuriorkis Gamboa. Now Cruz doesn't necessarily seem like the biggest puncher, but he's definitely a puncher that wears you down. You can kind of tell from his overall aura and ability, like he's just a guy that just will mentally wear you out. And when we're looking at Gamboa, he's, what is he, 39, 40, coming up to 40 this year. Like he's very much like a shot fighter. I mean, he's been a shot fighter for the last sort of 4 years. He's been doing well to still rack up victories, because if you look at his record, it's actually not that bad. I think it's like 30-4. So he's only actually lost 4 fights in his whole career, but 3 of them have been by knockout. The only person to not knock him out was Devin Haney, but I guess you could say that he comprehensively beat him better than 2 of the other opponents. I don't class the Terence Crawford one in that, because Gamboa fought Crawford when Gamboa was in his prime. He's been past his prime for the other 3 defeats. So but I think just due to the fact that Gamboa, I don't know if he's going to be able to spoil that much and hold on and sort of tie up and just slow down the action a huge amount. I think Isaac Cruz is just going to stay on top of him and just bully and sort of just throw shots, and I reckon that this fight ends within 7. I think within the first 7, I think Isaac Cruz manages to get the stoppage, whether it's the ref just deciding, okay, there's too much going on, or whether Gamboa goes down 3 times or doesn't choose to come up, or doesn't come out of the corner. Yeah, I reckon sort of within 7 rounds, Isaac Cruz gets the TKO victory. Now, coming to the main event. I've been thinking about this one for a while, and everyone knows that I'm not Errol Spence Jr.'s biggest fan, especially not recently. Like prior to the car accident and stuff, I had a bit more disdain, just because I felt like it was his side holding up the whole Crawford fight. I just wanted to see the 2 quote-unquote best in that division get it on, yada yada yada. Anyway, you've got someone like Dennis Ugas. Now, he had signed to fight Crawford way back in like 2020, and then the Manny Pacquiao fight came around for Spence, and he obviously took he took that fight, which, who's going to blame him? Nobody. Subsequently gets injured, and you've got Ugas jumping in his place. So one thing you've now got is you've got Spence that's not fought since 2020. You've got Ugas, who fought in the summer of last year, so he's fought within the last 12 months. So there's no real ring rust there, basically, or if there is, it's minor. But he's been thinking about Spence for the last 2 years, thinking about this unification. He's already in his last fight dealt with a southpaw, so it's not like he's having to readjust his camp. He's got Ismael Salas in his corner, who is one of the best strategists and trainers in the game right now, to be fair. That plus, I feel like he wants this fight more. We know that Spencer's talked about kind of either wanting to move up or having doubts about whether he should even continue boxing based on everything that's happened to him. And I don't blame him. Like, you crash a car like that and survive with your life. Boxing's the last thing on your mind. Then you're in training and your eye goes. Like, that must be a horrible feeling. So I can imagine that he hasn't really been thinking fully about boxing in that sense. But in this fight, he's got fights that to look forward to after this. I feel like Ugas doesn't. So I think that's the issue here. Like, Ugas, for him, this is everything, because nothing for him is guaranteed if he loses this fight. Spence could always blame making weight. He could always just move up and do things like that if he wanted to carry on in the game. I feel like Ugas is kind of stuck with that sense. And that's just the intangibles outside the ring. If we look inside the ring, you've got Ugas, who's naturally a big guy, welterweight. His dimensions, his frame is actually bigger than Spence's, so he's not going to get bullied around the ring. Spence isn't going to be the bully in this fight. It's literally going to be, two guys the same size applying their traits, so then it becomes, well, who applies it better? Now, as I said, Ismael Salas is a much better trainer, in my opinion, than Derek James. And I make no apologies to say that. I think Ugas technically is more skilled and a better sort of technician and a counter puncher, whereby Spence is a pressuring boxer puncher. So he's going to come forward, he's going to let his hands go, he's not going to be conservative defensively, I don't think, which gives Ugas the chance to counter him. The question is, does Ugas try to counterpunch too much and look inactive to the judges in Texas, which I believe the fight is taking place, because that will put you down on the scorecards 3 rounds before the fight's even started. So realistically, Ugas has to be front foot heavy in this fight, and he has to want to go for a knockout or at least a knockdown of some proportion to have any chance of winning. But in this fight, I'm just predicting that the near 4 years of inactivity from Errol Spence, 2 fights in 4 years, 2 major injuries within that time frame as well, the first time hiring a nutritionist and admitting that he's been struggling to make this weight for the longest time, I don't think he's gonna have it in him. I think Ugas is going to want it more, and I'm going to go for Ugas to win this fight. I don't know if it's going to be like a late stoppage or if it's going to be points, but I'm going to have to assume it's going to be points, because Spence is quite durable, but if he does get a stoppage, it's going to be late as well. Sort of, we're talking rounds 10, 11. But I feel like Ugas might just nick us. He might do enough for the judges to give him a split decision, and if that's the case, then that means he clearly won the fight, because if you're in Texas, you only get a split decision if you won the fight. But that's my prediction. So yeah, those are the cards. So right, so just to recap, you got Ryland Charlton in boxer, you got Alicia Baumgardner by KO, you've got Tommy McCarthy by decision, and you've got Conor Benn via, I reckon, points or a very late stoppage against Van Heerden. Then you got Radzav Butayev against Stanionis. I predict Butayev. Cody Crowley by points. Isaac Cruz by KO within 7. And Eudenis Ugas via sort of a split decision or a very, very late stoppage in that fight. Put your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and let's see how many I get right. Let's see how many you get right. We can talk about it on the weekend wrap. But for now, Basis Picks locked.